We are here today to talk about the future of America, about the future that we want for ourselves, for our children. And we're going to talk a lot about the role that we want the federal government to play in realizing that future. And we're going to look at areas like Medicare and Social Security. We're going to look at our defense spending. We're going to look at education, transportation, taxation, and the national debt. These are the kinds of issues we're going to be dealing with today.
So in other words, we all agree that we want to keep our promise to the elderly in the process of reforming this situation. Nobody's just saying, well, they're just going to have to deal. Because some people do.
Owe it to.
Right.
I mean,
they paid it in their whole lives.
They paid it in.
Yeah.
They worked hard.
But we're going to have to come up with some kind of way to do something with the cost and the rise of the healthcare, industry. I mean, we know it's one of the fastest growing industries.
Why is it? Why? The question may be, why is it so expensive?
Well, therein lies, we got to go back again where political reform is needed. You know, the reason that healthcare expense is out of hand, and it is out of hand, you know, is because of the influence that the insurance lobby has in Washington.
The drug company.
Right? You know, and as long as they maintain the power that they have, citizens like us, you know, we're going to pay for it.
The pros is that we have a good defense, we have the National Guard and those things that's in place in case something does happen. Okay. We have a defense there ready at all times to defend us in case we have a problem.
I think we could be very sorry if we reduced our military to a point where if something did happen, we weren't ready.
Yeah.
Our conversation today is about common ground. So we're really looking for things that all the groups agreed on, and we want to note where there are differences and see if really we can find some common ground about that.
Keep the budget balanced. If you don't have the money on a yearly basis, do not spend it. We're basically making minimum payments on our credit card as a country, and we all know that that never gets you out of debt.
Starting with Medicare and Social Security, we like the program that gave people, a choice, a personal choice in how they make some of their decisions about their, pension and retirement and their health care.
When we talked about that individual choice, we came up with, on paper, it looks good, but we can't figure out how you're going to take that and go across the board with it and actually make it work. And that's why we opted out of that.
If I'm the one that's dying, I don't want you doing open heart surgery or a whole bunch of other invasive things that are running up the medical bill, no matter who's paying for it.
There needs to be some sort of government reform so that we can feel more that we can trust the government with our money. Because right now, I don't think hardly anybody in our group felt that we could really trust the government with doing the right thing with our tax dollars and any other spending that they would propose to make a better future.
You could conceivably justify a tax increase if you had the confidence that that money was going somewhere that you wanted it to be.
We're going to send you back to your rooms to work. So now we're going to push on you a little bit and say, how might we get there? What are some important and productive steps we can take? Can we find some agreement on how we might move?
Each one of these programs are very important. Yeah. They're very important because we can't, how can we live without Medicare, and things like that, education and...
You can't. The accountability thing is so major and everybody keeps saying it. But how do you implement something like that? You're accountable for every dollar. Who oversees that?
Citizen watchdog. If you had a group of people who were not part of the government who would watch over these guys.
People are not going to vote for more taxes. People are people. We see that would help the whole problem in a nutshell if people would pay more taxes so the money could go to education.
It may be helpful, actually, not to think about what other people would do. What will you guys do?
We're willing to pay taxes for a brighter tomorrow, although we haggled over whether we'd pay more income tax or if it'd be a national sales tax.
I wouldn't mind taxes increasing some, not all at one time, be a slight gradual increase to get rid of the deficit as long as we can get the government to be accountable.
If you set metrics to beginning of the year or beginning of the term, you know, in whatever terms of government you have, you know, that maybe they don't get to vote on whatever their pay raise is going to be unless they attain some of the goals that they had set in the very beginning.
Okay. So that's a very different thing than we do now. That's not just budgeting based on your department gets X and your department gets X. That's budgeting based on your department's going to accomplish X. And, you know, this program's going to accomplish Y.
The most important thing that all of us are saying is that we have very similar feelings and concerns. I think it's sad that a lot of us have such a distrust in our government. It's also pretty sad that this is one of the first times that many of us have this opportunity to voice our opinions about such important things that affect us all.
My biggest surprise today was that we can have this many people come together, and we really didn't have that many major differences. Nobody was throwing anything at each other, anything like that. We all have the concerns of retirement, paying taxes, and our health benefits.
What I'm going to take away from this is I think I've noticed, I mean, there are a faction of us who were not willing to see taxes go up, but with some accountability, there's a large portion of this room, I think, who would agree to some taxes, you know, if we felt that our money was being spent wisely, and that choices were being made that benefits everyone and not just certain classes of people.
I just want to say that I was surprised at, one, the diversity of the group, and even though we are different races, creeds, and colors, that we all have a consensus on the direction that we want our country to go.
It's a pitiful thing when we have to come together to talk about how we're going to raise $15 to buy a case of paper towels to clean up a puddle when a 15-cent washer would have stopped the leak in the faucet. And that gets back to my word of accountability. If we can make this country accountable for the things that we do as far as financing, decisions, voting, education, all of these factors have accountable landmarks that we need to go by. The rest of it is going to fall in place, I promise.